offering legal counsel
on the Sony
1955 and supporting SDPB for 35 years. More at damgen.com.
Funding for Here and Now comes from Strawberry.me, whose career coaches offer professional support to help people get unstuck, gain clarity, and move forward, whether advancing in a current role or choosing a new direction altogether. More at Strawberry.me/public.
Is Here and Now. A court ruling in Texas is shaking up the world of college football. This week, a judge temporarily allowed Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby to play this upcoming season, even after he admitted to making thousands of bets on games, including betting on his own team. Let's lay it out with Amanda Kostovich, reporter for the website Front Office Sports. Amanda, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So the rules Sorsby broke seem clear on paper. No betting on collegiate sports. The NCAA had declared him ineligible, and then he went to court to win this ruling. What did he argue?
Well, Brendan Sorsby argued a couple different things. Essentially, the lawsuit was a contract dispute claim. Brendan Sorsby's lawyers said that he tried to, he admitted to betting on sports. He actually entered an inpatient treatment center, and that as a result of not just the fact that he's taken responsibility for his actions, but because he has what the DSM-5 considers a mental health condition in a gambling addiction, that it's up to the NCAA to support him through that and to potentially consider that when it comes to giving him his eligibility back after he took responsibility for his actions. So that's the crux of what and it appears that
Yeah, right. What this ruling by the court? The reaction to college football.
Heart and work cover over.
everything that we
Jesus Christ has done for us as
a powerful book. We've seen how hope does not come by the law. So next time, we're going to look at how to grow in hope. Be sure to join us. Of course, if you ever miss radio, you can always listen online.
Or a series of potential ramifications, because obviously the Big 12 doesn't want to go against Texas.
Another way to listen is through the Open Bible app. You'll find the app at your app store. It's a great way to listen on demand whenever it fits our schedule. And speaking of listening, as it fits your schedule, if you've not checked out the newest book that feels like in the Bible, entitled Hike Through the Bible, I'd encourage you to look for that and what you're for. There's already so much fun. Join Pastor Colin and so much fun.
There's so much concern about the integrity of college football as a result of this ruling. The NCAA immediately sent a notice of appeal, so they've already initiated that process. There's concern, obviously, that across the country, this
podcasts, and you can find the video version at our YouTube channel.
athletes engage in betting want to be able to play.
Wow.
Correct. That before, everybody, from a legal perspective, this isn't a binding precedent. Even from a
books that we are putting out for
a safety report, so it's not a binding precedent. It could be cited.
It's in 1 Corinthians in chapter 13.
Quickly, Amanda, how high profile is Texas Tech, the team? How profile is its quarterback, Brendan Sorsby?
Prizes. So if they lose him, there'd be a major blow to Texas Tech, which is really trying to
our greatest
playoff.
To have a stronger faith, to have a more certain,
it makes a lot of sense,
and to be renewed in a resilient kind of love.
Reports on the business of Christian sports for the website Office Sports. Amanda, thanks so much. Nearly 60% of people today own at least one wearable device to track their health data. That's according to a new survey by Rock Health. And more than half of them keep them on almost all the time. The Apple Watch, the Fitbit, those have been around for a while. And now Aura, which makes a fitness tracker Ring, is planning to go public on the stock market. And Whoop, which makes the tracker band with no screen, this spring pulled in more than $500 million in venture capital money. So let's talk about this business with Brent Crane, contributor to Bloomberg Business Week. He's been reporting on Aura. Brent, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I want to ask about Aura, but first, is this a bigger moment for wearable tech in general?
Yeah, it definitely feels like the wearables moment. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to write about Aura is just because I noticed in my own life, everyone around me was starting to wear these things, whether it be the Aura ring or the Whoop bracelet. Everyone's just wearing wearables these days.
Let's talk about Aura. I actually tried one out during COVID when the company, interestingly, was studying whether ring data could predict COVID infections before symptoms. And it's just kind of really interesting to kind of wear it and get this data. You write that the vibe from the company, from the brand, is less, get ripped bro and more age well friend. What do you mean?
It actually started out as part of this sort of biohacker world, which is sort of like a kid mentality, but they sort of have pivoted to this softer approach where it's really about not, people who go to the gym obsessively necessarily, and more just about people who want to live a lifestyle.
It has filed paperwork with the Securities and Exchange Commission for an initial public offering to go public on the stock market. Why now?
Well, I think maybe a few reasons. Their revenues have really exploded in the last couple of years. They're selling a lot more. They've just released a new product, a new ring, and it's sort of a big advancement from previous rings in that it's more comparable with a wedding ring, to wear. There's more capabilities. They've been leaning more into AI stuff. So I think they just feel like they're at the right moment there.
Interesting. The one I tried, I think, was version 1.0. Pretty chunky.
They were a lot bigger back then.
Yeah, and so maybe this is part of the improvement story here. Can you talk a little bit more about what's data and how it presents the data, maybe through an app to the user that, is useful to the user?
Yeah, it just connects it through, a variety of sensors that are sort of built into the ring, and these tiny little sensors on your skin. It's collecting biometric data, heart rate variability, skin temperature, sleep stages. It can tell you if you're in light, deep, or like REM sleep. And it presents it all to you in this, really handsome app, which is really one of their big selling points. They say that their app is easy to use, and that's sort of what keeps people coming back, because keep in mind that they make a lot of their money through the people. They buy the hardware, they buy the ring, and then they pay, monthly fee to subscribe to this app.
And we should note, Brent, that there are other companies in the wearable ring space. Do you know what these companies do with the data? Are there any privacy questions?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly privacy questions. I remember when I interviewed Tom Hale, or CEO, it was around the Dobbs decision, and I asked him...
Abortion ruling, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens if the government comes to you and asks for data to show if a woman was pregnant and then got an abortion in a state where it's illegal? And his reply was, well, we have to comply with the law, but, we'll stand with you, is what he said to me. So, yeah, there are some tricky situations one can imagine with privacy and with data, but there hasn't been, any major scandal there.
You've been reporting on the Aura ring, of course. Another hot item in the news is the Whoop strap, bracelet. True story. My college kid, who's all about his Whoop, lost it in a huge wave. An hour after that, my wife is in the ocean. She steps on the strap, rescues it. So, hallelujah for the fun thing. Whoop miracle. Whoop, there you go. And that's, of course, what we said out loud. Whoop. It just raised $500 million in venture capital. What do you make of that?
I think we're just on the wearable wave here. I confess I don't use them. I sort of feel like I know sleep better and drink less, and so I don't quite see.
Cloud by day, fire by night, guide my way, move me right.
That everyone sort of wants to be living at this moment.
Well, and that raises an interesting question because I talked to him years or so, and he says the data, especially on sleep, is really useful to him. But then I kind of know, what it's going to tell me. I know when to have a bad sleep day, and for sleep to be less useful over time. Is that a worry in the business?
Yeah, I think Aura would say that they report, high levels of stickiness. Users going back, they keep saying they find it useful. I can say, in my own life, my wife has a smart watch, and she's using it for several months for sleep, and every day we'd wake up and look at her sleep score, and then after a while, I noticed she stopped using it, and sort of in the morning if she's had a bad or a good sleep. So I don't know if that's common with other users, but
I think that's being made by at least two of these big companies. We've been talking to Brent Crane, contributor to Bloomberg Business Week. Brent, thanks again.
Thank you very much, Scott.
You're listening to Here and Now.
Live from NPR News in Boston, I'm Josie Guarino. President Trump is blaming Iran for shooting down a U.S. military helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz, saying on social media the U.S. must respond. A U.S. drone boat rescued both pilots who are safe after the crash along the strategic waterway. It's still unclear how this could affect the fragile ceasefire that's been in effect for weeks. Iran has not responded to Trump's remarks. J.D. Vance is recommending the Department of Justice investigate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison over the state's recent fraud scandal. The move follows a new House Oversight Committee report that claims that two Democrats were aware of widespread fraud in state-run social service programs but failed to stop it. Walz and Ellison call the accusations politically motivated and deny any wrongdoing. Today's primary stretch from Maine to North Dakota, South Carolina, and Nevada, where voters will decide on races for the U.S. Senate, House Governor, and more. A lot is riding on the Senate race in Maine, where political newcomer Graham Plattner, facing a series of controversies, is representing to take on Republican Cummings, who has had a job for 30 years. You're listening to Here and Now.
Federal Credit Union supports SDPB's coverage of the South Dakota High School Rodeo Finals, live on SDPB TV and SDPB since 1949. Communities they serve.
For 2 decades, Alec Oliver has started university plans designed to help students answer a big question. Who are we? We are not nouns, we are verbs. There's no part of us up to the psychological level that's static. Live like a verb instead of a noun. This week on Hidden Brain from NPR.
Listen Saturday afternoon at 1 Central, Noon Mountain.
By Ingalls Homestead, Laura's Living Prairie. Experience Laura Ingalls Wilder's pioneer heritage through covered wagon rides and hands-on activities. More at ingleshomestead.com.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WVUR Boston, a new NPR station, and MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink, to design and develop engineered systems, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at MathWorks.com, and Boston University Questrom School of Business, where research and innovation work to help turn ideas into impact for business and society. Questrom means business. Learn more at eu.edu/Questrom.
Here and now, the small food business is struggling. Companies for brands like Brookings, Doritos, Cape Cod chips all report shortages. Is it inflation? Is it the healthy eating? Let's now bring in business analyst close to full disclosure, personal cost, and clearly a chocolate first.
Our Lord, hey there. I thought this was where we left us.
Now starting
Good hope.
Campbell's, Smucker's, General Mills. What's going on?
Through Christ. And this whole 10, in 1986, my mom and dad bought me my first bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. The meaning of this one was so beautiful. I didn't know what the flavor profile was. But I don't think my kids, 40 years later, know what that tastes like. Because there's such a broad backlash against processed food. And processed foods. If you try to look at the list of ingredients on the back, that's like a
very long.
Yeah. So everybody is feeling that on top of the terrible press that they got for attempting to charge people nearly $7 a bag for chips, Frito-Lay, during the period of greedflation and inflation. So you put that together, and people are looking elsewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think this is largely kind of consumer confidence? The companies, when they've reported this thing and in their quarterly kind of earnings calls, they've talked about consumer confidence. Is snacks where people actually cut back, you think?
Yeah, it's supposed to be comfort food. And if you have new alternatives such as Aldi and other places where you could get healthier, basic ingredient things, maybe a bag of pistachios or siete chips or some of the things that are just dressed down with 3 or 4 ingredients, and they cost less, of course you're going to look away from the processed, shrinkflated and greedflated things. And this has been a huge problem for the food industry, which in the United States is intensely consolidated and researched and flavor profiled. People are looking away. I mean, when I was in college, I'll give you an example. I would stop and get a bag of something or a piece of processed something from the drugstore with a Snapple iced tea. Now that's kind of taboo. No one's drinking all that sugar. They're looking for seltzers. They're looking for things that are minimalist. And this has boxed out the biggest food manufacturers. They're coming out and saying, we're sorry, we underestimated this.
And how, Robin, about the role of the GLP-1 medicines? Michigan State University food economist David Ortega talked to USA Today and said these medicines, Ozempic, Wegovy, suppress appetite and could be a factor here. I guess we have to wait for the data, but what are your thoughts?
No doubt, for older people in addition, for the ones who used to indulge in these simple pleasures. I mean, look at what the checkout line at a Walmart tells you when all these snack-sized bags of things are put there. And if people are resisting those siren calls, we're hearing it in the apparel industry right now. We're hearing it in the restaurant industry in terms of portion size. It's bound to hit the unhealthiest part of the grocery aisle as well, so stay tuned.
Yeah, so I was going to say, World Cup's coming, so, we'll be double dipping our chips once again. Do you think this is a structural change here, yeah?
Yeah, and that's why you've seen the biggest ones go out and buy the organic, simple ingredient, whole food upstarts, right? Walk into a Whole Foods, walk into a Moe's, look at the seltzer waters that are selling times more than the sugar sodas. We used to have Cola Wars in college, and now it's much more of a kind of a minimalist thing.
Yeah. Have we tamed the Twinkies? Robin Farzad.
Learn to be
Robin, thanks. You're listening to Here and Now.
Had given these same things to me. But now think about it. Like, when you see other people's kids,
President Trump says the U.S. is close to an agreement with Iran to end the war, but it could include Iran's nuclear program. But what may Trump have to concede?
What he cannot abide is an outcome that paints him to be a loser, having been played by the regime that he intended to weaken.
I'm Elsa Chang. Nuclear negotiations on all things considered from
All the redistricting battles are looking pretty good right now. from what I'm seeing, Republicans are, leaning favorites, with potentially picking up a handful of seats in the House. The ball, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. 888-589-83.
I hope, I'd like to think that you're a man about saying here. AFA action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the state is that and when you do badly, well then immediately you're going to find that you're tempted to despair. To be more and more like Jesus.
WBUR, I'm Scott Tong in Washington, D.C.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan in Boston. It's here in Transform. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. launched a federal campaign last month to urge Americans more about Wesley Biblical Seminary, SSRIs. That includes Zoloft, which nearly 1 in 6 Americans report.
This is Bible League International. Not far from the conflict in the Middle East right now, Mahmoud Muslim Islamic cleric accepted the invitation of a Christian friend to attend a Bible study.
And he wrote about it recently for Health and Medicine publication Stat. Dr. Slater, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Health Secretary Kennedy has long evidence that they contributed to school shootings. First of all, are those claims true?
No, they're absolutely not true. There's no study that shows SSRIs cause violence. Most people who commit these acts were never on these medications. And among the few who were, no one has shown the drug drove the act. And the problem with untreated depression and untreated psychosis carried away and sets an accelerated between nearly 60,000 every person taking antidepressant.
Hope does not
help.
All medications, prescription and over-the-counter, have potential, some of which we may not even be aware of. So tell us what are the potential side effects from antidepressants, and why might some people want to or benefit from going off?
Well, I think the start and stop question is as the drugs. People have been asking how to stop medicines for as long as we've been to prescribe. Prescribing, which means taking someone off of a medication, and how to best do that is understudied, and the drug companies have spent 40 years proving these medicines work, but they funded almost nothing on how to stop them, and the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has not compelled them to do so. Most of these medicines, when they're taken properly according to how they're prescribed, have very little side effects that people would take them. Some people may gain weight, some people may lose interest in sex. And I want to say that the vast majority of people prepare for battle, sign up and stand with us. Stand in the back. We're not having to feel like Radio with your host, Rick Green.
We're back on that tour. We're walking along with Rick Green over here. A couple more headlines to hit.
So this was the American Society of Clinical Psychopharmacology, and what they said is the following. You should consider deprescribing when two medications overlap and do the same job, when there's improvement on a medication that has only been minimal, when a medication has stopped working, when side effects outweigh the benefits. On the other hand, there are people who have had several serious episodes of depression throughout their lifetime. If someone had 3 or more serious episodes of depression throughout their lifetime, the expert consensus actually says to stay on the medicine. But that being said, this is a clinical decision that has to be made patient by patient and is never a federal default.
Let's talk about those patients who are trying to withdraw from these drugs. And apparently there are some symptoms that people might experience from the withdrawal, including sleep problems, flu-like symptoms, or even perhaps a return to feelings of depression and anxiety. So tell us, how common is it to have difficulties with this process of withdrawal? And is there a protocol to help patients get off these drugs safely with minimal side effects?
There are not such as reducing school screenings and actually interfere with our ability to identify people who are depressed and at risk for developing more significant emotional symptoms.
Dr. Jonathan Slater is a clinical professor of psychiatry at Columbia University. Dr. Slater, thank you so much. NPR's Michael Coffey has tips to make sure your claim is handled quickly.
Insurance is supposed to help you recover when bad things happen, like your house burns or gets battered by a storm. But people often don't know what their policies cover. So, for starters, check how much your insurance will pay out if your home is destroyed. That's according to Douglas Heller, Insurance Director at the Consumer Federation of America.
I mean, building costs have been escalating so quickly that we're seeing huge percentages of homes that are destroyed in disasters don't have enough coverage on them.
You should also check the deductible on your insurance policy. That'll tell you how much you have to pay out of pocket if your home is damaged. For renters, especially those living in a single-family home, Heller says you should confirm that your landlord's home insurance is up to date. And everyone should verify that your insurance covers living expenses in case you're displaced.
Think about how much it would cost if you had to be out of your house for 3 weeks.
And remember, flooding isn't covered by home or renter's insurance. You need a separate policy for that, which most people buy through the National Flood Insurance Program. Next, you'll want to document your valuables in case you have to file an insurance claim. Keller suggests doing it every year, using a cell phone to record a video of the stuff inside your home or apartment.
It makes it a lot easier to